Hey everybody, how's it going?
Hi.
Sorry,
It's
it's Dave and Linda from Balance Point Health Center on another Friday of not working. So we're here to say hello.
we are working.
Well,
We've been working hard this week,
yeah, that's true.
but different kind of working. Lots of policy writing, lots of painting, and you know,
Oh wait, painting
educating. We are
the trim
working.
in the house doesn't count as actual work towards the office. But anyway,
Just not treating you.
but we are getting policies set up for work, so everything's in place now. So when you come in, you're going to be receiving COVID questionnaires. We'll be sending out emails on your asking you 24 hours before how you're feeling. We're going to be sending out an email as well, documenting everything that's going to be happening for you to come into the clinic. And if you're not comfortable coming to the clinic until your appointment, because we're asking you to show up right on time, we can text you. You can stay in your car. We can text you when your appointment is ready, in case I'm running a couple minutes late. But we're going to do our best to stay on time. So it depends on your level of comfort. If you're comfortable coming in, that's fine, right when your appointment is, or we can also text you. And our kids are right there. Thanks for slamming the door.
Sorry.
Yeah, huh?
Where's the broom?
Anyway, figure it out. Wow, 3 months together.
Teenage boys.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah. So today, what we wanted to talk to you about, though, was when to break up with your therapist. It's funny. I was having a conversation with someone the other day about a problem they were having, and it was actually a funny story because I'll tell you that one later. This isn't as funny, but the person was having problems with their shoulder, and they were having a problem with their shoulder, and they were going to therapy. Linda's playing it on the phone.
I'm just going to
Super
share
annoying.
it. I want to share it with my friends
That's good.
because
Anyway, so what was happening was that they were. Sorry, that's my phone now. This is fantastic. They were having shoulder problems, and they were going to their therapist for a year, and there was no change. And they never even thought of leaving the therapist. And I'm like, well, if your car was pulling to the right, and you went to your mechanic 3 times, and it was still pulling to the right, would you keep going to that mechanic? And the answer is no. It's weird that we have this odd we form a relationship with someone. You trust someone because you go in to get treated, and it's not working out. But they'll tell you, oh, it takes time. It's a process, and sometimes it is. Like I know when I talk to my patients, I'll tell them that when you're having therapy, it is a process, and sometimes when I see them initially, I'll always say it should get better in 3 or 4 appointments. Your mother's not a cat.
It's John.
Oh, is it John? Oh, that's great. Sorry, my friend John Riquetta is super early. He's not supposed to be here till after 1. Anyway, so when we see someone initially, you should see someone. Within 3 or 4 appointments, you should actually start to see a change in your symptoms. And it depends, of course, what's going on. Like if you've had a major motor vehicle accident or you've had a major trauma from a fall. I've had patients who've fallen off their roofs. Yeah, that's going to take a really long time to get better because it's a massive amount of trauma. But for a general population, when someone comes in with lower back pain that isn't a major structural issue, really it should take 3 or 4 treatments. You should start to notice a difference. And it comes down to, I think it's the therapist's responsibility to say to the patient, this isn't working out. And sometimes when I've had to tell patients that, they need to go in a different direction for therapy, whether it be seeing another therapist outside of the clinic even, I'll tell them, it's not you, it's me. Obviously, I may be missing something, and I'm not breaking up with you, but we need to try to figure out what's the best plan of attack to get you better. Is it going back to your doctor? Is it getting more X-ray? Is it getting like X-ray, CT, MRI? Something to talk to your doctor about, because the more information we get, the better it is. Because I get really frustrated when I hear about therapists who are seeing their patients for a year, or I've had patients 3 years with no improvement in their symptoms at all, but they keep going and they're just hoping beyond hope that things will start to change. Sometimes it doesn't matter who you see, it's not going to change. But I've had a lot of patients who have seen different therapists over the years who come in and they keep treating the same thing all the time. Like say your pain is here in the shoulder, they keep treating it. It's insanity. You keep treating it's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. It's the same thing. If you have pain here in your shoulder and I keep ultrasounding it and I expect it to result, the symptom to change, it's not going to change. You have to look at the entire biomechanics of the whole thorax, shoulder complex, clavicle, lung, like everything all the way down. It's
and
very
maybe even
frustrating.
incorporate other modalities as
Oh,
well.
definitely.
So if you're not noticing change in when you're seeing an osteopath for X number of time, then maybe it's something you have to do is look internally at your inflammation levels, or is there something else going on that's causing that pain? Right?
Yeah,
More
everything's linked
holistically,
together, but it was just a specific example for osteopathy. But
Mhm.
and that's therapists. The reason we put a clinic together too is because therapies work together.
Mhm.
Like for our naturopaths, if someone has a bowel issue, then if they're having chronic inflammatory issues with their bowel, they work with a nutritionist and naturopath and try to calm down the physiology of the organ. But if they're also, when they read their list of complaints, if they see that they have chronic lower back pain, well, where does the bowel attach? The bowel attaches to the spine. So that inflammatory bowel condition can be a structural problem, creating a structural problem as well. So if we actually can treat physiologically and treat how the structure is, how the organ is functioning with the naturopath and nutritionist, and then osteopathically we can look at how the pelvis and lumbar spine moving, the diaphragm, and all the different connections to take pressure off the organ too. It could actually affect arterial flow. It could affect venous return to the structures too. And that's why having a well-rounded approach makes a big difference.
You know what I think too is sometimes I feel like people start settling. Dave was saying how often people will stay with someone for really long, but I think sometimes we forget what it feels like to be really well in our bodies. And so when we notice a little bit of change with that one person, that we hang with it, we stay with it because we think, oh wow, I've totally made some progress, I've improved, and maybe this is as good as it's going to get. So it's like we lower the bar a little bit for ourselves and for our health. I think that could be part of it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Chat in what you guys think. But I think that can be a very common thing. Part of it could be relationship. You feel like you've got this relationship with that person and you kind of sort of owe them in a way to stay with them and to, give them an opportunity to get you better. That could be part of it. And I don't know. I kind of feel like there's more to it. It is complicated, but at the same time, this is just a reminder that we challenge you to feel like you can feel better. You can feel better than you think you feel, and just never give up, right? There's always someone who's going to look at your issue a little bit differently. And maybe it's someone that's not necessarily better, but they're just going to have a different view of what's going on in your body, and they can provide a different perspective. And so sometimes it makes sense in going to someone else and seeing someone, from a different viewpoint. It doesn't mean you can't go back to the original person, but maybe you just needed a different view at that issue. So I was just explaining the reasons on why I think people do that. And that I think that it's sometimes they lower their expectations and they think, oh, well, I've made a bit of progress, so that's it. That must be it. Like I feel like people forget what it feels like to be really well. And I was talking to someone and they were saying how they have lower back pain, right, Marge? And it's just something he now identifies with. He's just always had lower back pain, and that's just him. And it's almost like he feels like he has to live with it now.
Yeah.
And so he didn't even expect to feel better. So I kind of feel like that's part of it.
That's part of it.
Know,
a lot of patients will say, it's my lot in life.
Yeah.
I'm meant to have pain. I'm like, no, actually, try stretching. There's so many things you can do to actually affect your pain levels. And I think therapists take advantage of that. And not all, there's
not
good
intentionally. I don't
some
think anyone
do,
does
some
intentionally.
do.
But
some of the stories I hear from patients are quite shocking. The things the therapist will say to them.
Yeah.
I had one person who told me that it was just reprehensible. They said that their therapist asked me if I could treat cancer, and I said no. I was so caught off guard, I didn't know what to say. So I said, no, actually, I missed that class on random cell mutation. Why are you asking me this? And she said, oh, my therapist said I had to come back to prevent cancer from happening. So I'm like, well, never go back to that person. I go, if you stop seeing me, that's fine, but never go back to them. Promise me you'll never go back. Because that mentality is out there, right? And people will take advantage of situations. They try to use fear to keep patients as a patient. They used to scare you into staying.
Yeah, we've been sucked into that fear approach in our lives, and it's.
But that's something who's done therapy based. But anyway, no, I don't want no, we're good.
No, not that one.
No, it's good. We're fine. I don't want to talk about that. Anyway,
I have a good story. I'll tell you later.
Oh, for God's sake. So anyway, just because if someone is like one of the things I say to my patients is that after I've been seeing them for a little bit, I always try to gauge them like on a scale, like give me a vague percentage how you're feeling. Are you like 10% better, 20% better, 50, 80? Where are you? Because we need to make that needle has to move. If the needle's not moving, then I could be missing something because I'm human. I could be completely missing something obvious. I like to think I cover all my bases and that I'm seeing everything I should, but it's inevitable you're going to miss something. So if you're being honest with your patient and you're honest with yourself, you try to minimize that from happening. And I think that's very important as a therapist to do the best for your client because they're trusting you with their health. And seeing people taking advantage of it is just it's reprehensible. But the funny story I was going to tell you. So I don't know if any single ladies that may be watching. I know it's funny. It's really funny because the person with the shoulder, it's how to meet a fireman. This is how to meet a fireman. The guy who hurt his shoulder was a fireman, and I was riding my bike. I was doing some training, and I blew a tire, and I was just walking my bike back, and my bike, and this truck stopped because I was right by a park on Lakeshore, and the guy said, "Oh, do you need a lift? Like you blew your tire?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he goes, well, "How far do you have to go?" I go, 3 clicks. He goes, throw your bike, or 5 clicks. Throw your bike in the back, and I'll give you a lift. And anyway, it was a fireman, and that's the guy with the shoulder problem. And anyway, so I was saying to Linda at the time, like, "Oh my God, tell your single friends if they want to meet firemen, just walk up and down Lakeshore with the tire or the bike with flat tire."
Oh my God.
Aren't you glad
you tuned in this Friday afternoon, single ladies? You just go to the grocery store at 6 p.m. That's where you go.
That's when you go shopping, though.
I'm telling you that. Anyways, okay, let's start talking about something else. What I also wanted to talk about was clients that give up their change or feel like something's not working, like whether it's a nutrition change or something with your naturopath, and maybe you're taking a supplement, you feel like it's not working. Luke. Oh my God. Always, we're talking about like changes that you might get from your nutritionist, and then you stop taking them because you feel like it didn't do anything.
Oh, yeah.
It happens where people just, and I hear it from clients who come to me and say they've done it for previous practitioners as well, where it's like, oh, well, it didn't work, but they never circled back to the person who recommended that they do that in the first place. And here's the thing, like healing is a process. Like there's no beginning date and end date, and then all of a sudden you're healed. Woohoo, yay, all better. It takes a long time to see change, and especially if you've had that issue for years, right? Like kind of the rule of thumb is that if you've been sick, like for every year, it's going to take about a month of work, like changing your lifestyle, taking supplements, like, doing different things in your diet to really notice a change. And so, it's just frustrating because sometimes I hear that people say, oh, well, it didn't work, but then you hear that they didn't circle back and talk to that person about it because it's so huge. Like, if sometimes you feel guilty because maybe you just didn't do what you're supposed to do, like exercises, right? You still need to circle back and be honest because maybe that practitioner has another tip for you or a workaround.
It's important even with like, guys.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. When people have, I have patients who may not be feeling better, and then I ask, okay, well, tell me about your exercises. What's going on? Are you doing your stretches? Yes. Okay, well, how are you doing them? How long are you holding them? Oh, it's half the amount of time I asked. Or I stopped doing it because it hurts too much. Like, well, the first thing we said was you can't have pain, so you're stretching too hard. So you're actually creating more problems. So like, but sometimes people will actually stop doing the exercises and they stop taking the advice because of problems they're having. But if you just would talk to your therapist or nutritionist or doctor, it's amazing just having a conversation. Some things get misinterpreted. Things can be altered to help you. So always communicate. It's never go to a therapist and then something's not working and then just say, well, I'm not going back.
It's so huge because whatever is happening in between, is information for your therapist to then take a different approach, or maybe it will fill in a gap that they had. Like even just like the perfect example is, people trying to change their diets, and then you give them a suggestion around, switching out sugars, right? And if the client doesn't come back and say like, I can't stop eating sugar, I'm so addicted to it, like for some reason I just need something after every meal, whatever, that could cue me into maybe there's like a yeast overgrowth, or there's a bacterial, imbalance, where I could give you another approach to fix what's going on with those sugar cravings. Do you know what I mean? Instead of just you struggling with trying to stick to this diet that's never going to work because we haven't hit the root cause of what's going on.
Yeah, and the one thing we always talk about with diet, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because generally lifestyles that we have had have led to problems that we need fixed. Mm-hmm. Certain things we do in life, and it's our naturopath Jane's always got a great analogy. She expects patients to have an 80-20 rule. 80%, like stay with what you're doing. 80%, eat well. Very healthy lifestyle, but you still can have some fun in life. But it's the 80-20 rule is very important, and it helps people stick to things too. Because you can't be perfect all the time. The last thing you want is crushing guilt that you couldn't stick to what you were supposed to be doing, because that doesn't help anything either. Mm-hmm. But it has to, any diet or change in your life, you try to make it so that it's doable, and that even if it's small steps, cutting out one thing, it can make a massive difference.
Mm-hmm. And it's not temporary, and that's the thing. Like, you can't just do something for a month and then say, okay, I'm done, didn't work, and I'm going to go right back to the exact way that I was before. Like Dave was saying, like, even if you're just doing one thing, maybe it's like you're drinking more water now. That's a huge win that you should like really focus on and celebrate, because that's different than before.
Yeah,
right?
Not that coffee's bad.
We're not judging here. No, there is no judgment at our clinic, and that's the thing too. Like we understand.
Unless you're a Maple Leafs fan, we can fix that though. I swear I can fix that. Anyway. Montreal's in the playoffs, so we weren't supposed to be there. Anyway, okay. I'm happy.
All right, so we're almost at time.
Yeah.
Do you want to share a parting thought? So I guess just if you're seeing a therapist and it's not working, try something new.
Ask questions too, but the thing is, just make sure that you have to see some improvements. Unless there's been a catastrophic injury, you should see change. And if your therapist isn't giving you, ask questions. Why isn't this changing? Mm-hmm. Make sure they're giving you good answers, because
And can they ask how long does it generally take to?
Yeah, and people ask me all the time, and the problem with that is that I could see, because the classic example, people come in with low back pain, say my friend had the exact same pain, and it took them 3 treatments to get better, or 7, or 10, or whatever, or 1. And I'll say, well, that's great, they had the same pain, but you're not the same person. You had completely different lives. You've had completely different lives, different traumas, different physiology, different morphology. Like everything is different between you two, but you have this similar pain in your back. Like it's very hard. It's hard to say that how long it should take, but they should be able to give you a ballpark. Like I say to patients, you just need to see incremental change. It has to. Even therapy, it goes up and down, and it does ebb and flow in terms of having good days and bad days, like anything as it heals. But it has to be, it's kind of a stock exchange, except for right now. You should see a general uptick. It has to keep getting better. And if it's not, then that's the time you go back to your doctor, ask questions, get some diagnostics, X-rays, CT, MRI, anything. Just trying to get answers. Try not to think it's your lot in life. Sometimes there's massive structural changes, like for a knee. Someone with a really bad osteoarthritic knee, you can't fix osteoarthritis, but we can try to make it manageable by making the foot mobile and the pelvis mobile, so there's less stress on the knee. But at some point, if you have a stage 3 osteoarthritic knee, it will be replaced, and we can't change that. But it's just trying to mitigate your symptoms a bit so you can push it off a little bit longer, but where you can't hide the fact that has to get fixed. So, ask questions, do your exercises, see your nutritionist, make sure you're trying to eat your proper foods, taking care of yourself, exercise, and especially now getting out and moving as much as you can. Hopefully you have been, because it helps your mood. It helps everything. Food and exercise lift mood. I know Linda's told me to work out many times when I needed a change in my mood, which was sweet of her in her way. And I did, and I was much more pleasant. So get out, move, eat well, take care of yourself, and we'll see you soon.
Hopefully, we'll see you really soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Take care.